The most dangerous answer in a RAG system is often the confident one that should have said nothing.
Exactly. Abstention in RAG means the system decides not to answer, or not to answer fully, when retrieval is weak, evidence is missing, or the model cannot support a claim from the context.
So, this is not a bug, it is a deliberate move.
Right. A good RAG system does not just retrieve and generate. It also knows when the evidence is too thin to produce a trustworthy answer.
Why does that matter so much to programmers? Plenty of teams still optimize for answer rate.
Because answer rate can fake progress. If your system answers everything, it may look helpful in demos, while quietly inventing details in production.
Give me a concrete failure.
Imagine an internal docs assistant. A developer asks, which Kafka cluster handles billing events in Europe? Retrieval pulls an old migration doc and a generic architecture page. The model stitches them together and names the wrong cluster. That is worse than saying, I do not have enough grounded evidence. Please refine the query or fetch newer docs.
So, abstention is a power move. The system gives up a little convenience to avoid a bigger mistake.
Yes, and it changes the product strategy. Teams that refuse to abstain usually push risk downstream to users, who now have to detect when the answer is fabricated.
Let us pin down the mechanics. What triggers abstention in practice?
Usually some mix of signals: low retrieval relevance, conflicting documents, missing citations for key claims, weak re-ranker scores, low answerability classification, or generation checks that cannot ground the output in the retrieved passages.
That sounds like a confidence system, but confidence is slippery. Models can sound sure when they are lost.
Exactly why abstention should not depend on style. It should depend on evidence. The question is not, does the model sound confident? It is, can the system support this answer from retrieved sources?
Give me another example where that distinction matters.
Take customer support RAG. A user asks whether a specific API plan includes webhook retries. The retriever finds docs for webhooks, but not for that plan tier. A non-abstaining system may generalize from the base product docs and say yes. An abstaining system says, I found webhook documentation, but not plan-specific entitlement info. So I cannot confirm retries for your plan.
Now, let us talk about the final answer. How does abstention change what the user actually hears?
It changes the answer from unsupported certainty to bounded honesty. The final answer might be shorter, narrower, or conditional. It may say what is known, what is missing, and what next step would unlock a better answer.
So, not just silence. Sometimes it is partial answering.
Exactly. Abstention can be full or scoped. Full abstention means, I cannot answer this from the retrieved evidence. Scoped abstention means, I can answer parts A and B, but not C, because the sources do not cover it.
That sounds better for users, but some product teams will worry it feels weaker.
In the short term, maybe. In the long term, it is stronger. Users learn whether your assistant is a search layer with discipline or a fluent guesser. That difference decides adoption in serious workflows.
And it affects evaluation too, right? This is where teams get fooled.
Absolutely. If your eval only measures whether the model produced an answer that resembles a reference, abstention may look like failure. But in RAG, a key metric is selective accuracy. When the system answers, how often is it grounded and correct? And when it should decline, does it abstain?
So, a system that answers fewer questions can actually be better.
Yes. Think in terms of coverage versus precision. One system answers 100% of queries with 80% grounded correctness. Another answers 70% with 98% grounded correctness and abstains on the rest. In many real products, the second system wins because its failures are visible and manageable instead of hidden inside plausible prose.
Let me raise the tension. If you set the abstention threshold too high, the assistant turns timid. Too low, and it hallucinates. Who wins that trade-off?
That is the core tuning problem. The right threshold depends on the task. For code-based search, you may tolerate more abstention because developers can refine queries. For executive dashboards or support flows, you may prefer partial answers with explicit uncertainty. The trick is to tune for business cost of wrong answers, not for vanity metrics.
Give me one practical implementation pattern programmers can actually ship.
Use a gated pipeline. First, retrieve and re-rank. Then run an answerability check over the top passages in the question. If the score is below threshold, abstain or ask a clarifying question. If above threshold, generate only with citation constraints and reject any sentence that cannot be linked to evidence. That is simple, testable, and much better than hoping the model self-polices.
So, abstention is not the absence of capability. It is capability with breaks.
Exactly. In RAG, the system that knows when not to answer is often the one you can trust when it finally does.